Yo, what is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to our Football Manager 2014 Tactics video, the first in this series, Real Team Tactics. Real Team Tactics is a series where I set out to recreate tactics used in football, past and present, and show you guys my interpretations of them, share with you the file, and give you a chance to use them in your own game. So down in the description, there's a download link to this tactic. Today we are doing Real Madrid's 4-3-3 or 4-4-2 that they're currently using under Ancelotti. If you want to load up a tactic into your game, go to the tactics screen. You can then go to archive tactics, and then assuming you've put your tactic into your tactics folder, which can be found within your Sports Interactive Football Manager 2015, and then the folder called tactics, you can just add them in from there. I'll write some written instructions down in the description if you're struggling. So anyway, this is my interpretation of Real Madrid's system as it is right now. I should point out that Real Madrid are probably the most flexible team in Europe right now in terms of how they like to mix up their shape. Sometimes you'll see Cristiano Ronaldo play up front alongside another player. Sometimes you'll see him play him out wide, cut it inside. Then they're free in midfield in Rodriguez, Kroos and Modric. Of course, a kind of newly formed middle three this year. Hasn't really settled on a system themselves. So this is kind of my interpretation of it thus far in quite an effective manner in Football Manager. When I tested this, it got to the Champions League semi-final. I did get second in the league behind Barcelona, but I did also win the Spanish Cup. Also worth noting that during that period, I went on holiday for the entire period with my tactic locked in. So I didn't exactly have the most hands-on approach, but it does work. So anyway, let's talk about this system. First and foremost, Casillas in goal. Nothing too interesting there. He's a goalkeeper set to defend. Looking higher up the pitch, Pepe and Ramos I have put as ball-playing defenders. This is just to encourage us to play out from the back a little bit more than we otherwise would with defensive midfielders. Both Sergio Ramos and Pepe are pretty solid strikers. Strikers, centre-backs. Ramos with 15 passing there. Pepe is not too different. He has 13. Two players very capable of playing the ball out from the back and really being composed on the ball. So that's the reason for that. Out wide, I've gone with Arbeloa as a wing-back, and Marcelo is a complete wing-back. The reason for Marcelo being a complete wing-back is really that I need him to give me more width than I require from Arbeloa out on the right. As you'll see when we get higher up the field, we don't actually have a player out on the left, strictly speaking. And so I'm looking for Marcelo, particularly in attack, to offer that additional width when need be, and complete wing-back allows him to do that. Anyway, moving on to the kind of free in midfield, this was where it gets a little bit trickier. And the reason it gets a little bit trickier is because to get this system to work with the free midfielders you have, I had to be quite careful because in Rodriguez, Kroos and Modric, you've not exactly got the most offensive trio. Of course, Kroos and Rodriguez, both joining this year, kind of played as number 10s in the past for their clubs, and you can kind of see an element in kind of Real Madrid's play of perhaps a little bit of unbalance. So I had to try and rectify that. So the three player roles I've gone with in the centre mid position are two deep line playmakers and one roaming playmaker. So starting with Kroos, he is the deep line playmaker set to defend. So he's just going to sit slightly deeper. He's still going to dictate the play from deep and look to get forward when need be. But he's kind of going to be the one of these three who chooses to hold up a little bit more and is less inclined to bomb it into the box unnecessarily. And I guess he is the kind of one player who offers us some defensive resistance when need be. He's got okay tackling and marking. It's nothing standout, but he's certainly done a job there when I've played him in this role for me. To his right, we have Modric, who's a deep line playmaker support. Not too much more really to tell you about that, to be honest. He's just a very good player. You can see here, technically gifted, great mentals, which helps with him reading the play. And again, he hasn't got the best defensive stats, but he does what he does well. And with this possession, with this tactic, you will find yourselves, particularly against weaker teams, having a lot of possession. Anyway, the last player in the centre mid trio is James Rodriguez, who is a roaming playmaker. This was a tricky one. I wasn't sure whether to have him as an advanced playmaker set to kind of support or attack, or a roaming playmaker. Ultimately, I decided on roaming playmaker, and this is simply because I want him to get forward. And I guess if I show you here, as the a roaming playmaker kind of description suggests, he's going to look to pick the ball up in deep positions and work forward. And the reason that that's so important is because of a player instruction I have on him. And this is one that's kind of pretty important, and it's run wide with ball. The reason for that being is that, as I mentioned, we don't have a recognised left-sided player advanced up the field. I'll come on to that with Ronaldo shortly, but as a result, I needed to have a player who could add some width. So I'm looking for him not just to get the ball and kind of be a playmaker who's maybe going to get the ball in at feet, look to spread it out. I wanted him to roam and really look to exploit the space that is kind of vacant out wide for us in attack. Anyway, Cruz has got closed down more. That's just to help a little bit defensively. I found that's worked quite nicely. So moving on to Bale, you can see here I have get further forward and sit narrower on. Of course, with Real Madrid, they kind of play a 4-3-3 at times and a 4-4-2. I kind of wanted to encapsulate that into this formation. So as you can see here, we have Bale as an inside forward on the right in support. He's kind of done that role for Madrid quite a lot over the last kind of 1 and a bit seasons as it is right now. And so I wanted to get him to do that. What this means is when we don't have the ball, because he's set to support, he will drop into this little bit of space and it almost becomes a 4-4-2, which is quite nice because that is how Real Madrid kind of like to defend. And then looking higher up the field to our attackers, I've gone with Cristiano Ronaldo as a complete forward support. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo was a real tricky one for me to do, because I didn't know whether or not to have him as a inside forward out on the left or try and get him in a more effective position. Obviously, Ronaldo for Madrid kind of started out wide, but more and more frequently, especially this season, which is kind of evident in his goal-scoring record, he's playing as a striker off Benzema. So in order to kind of, I guess, mimic that to a degree in FM, he's set as a complete forward support with roam from position, move into channels and run wide with a ball. What this means is he will provide some width when need be, and he gets the ball at feet. He's going to obviously move into the channels, try and find the gaps between the full-backs and the centre-backs. And he's also going to roam from position. And I felt like this is kind of a nice way to kind of make him more effective in attack than an inside forward. Inside forwards, they're okay, but they never necessarily possess the goal-scoring threat that, say, Ronaldo does in real life. So as a result, I played him as a complete forward. And last but not least, I've got Benzema up front. He's got nothing too exciting about him. He's an advanced forward. He's the player who's going to hold the line. He's going to stand on the last man and look to break away when need be. In terms of the team instructions, attacking mentality, I did weigh up using control, but I think, as most people will agree, Madrid are, unlike Barcelona, I guess, in how they approach the game, in terms of philosophy, they're not going to look to hold on to the ball quite as much. Real Madrid a lot more about kind of scoring goals. I think that's kind of evident this season if you look through their goal scoring records. So team shape is fluid. That just means that the players are going to contribute to different phases of play. It particularly helps with Marcelo pushing higher up and kind of occupying a slightly higher role when need be. And it also means that Bale, set to support, is more likely to drop back to kind of make up the men in midfield and become a flat four in the midfield when need be. In terms of team instructions, the ones which I've gone with here right now: higher tempo, push higher up, run at defence and work ball into box. Work ball into the box is kind of self-explanatory. Run at defence is quite a nice one. It basically encourages players like Bale, Ronaldo, James Rodriguez, Benzema, even Modric to a certain extent to really run at the defenders and cause some havoc there. And it allows them to kind of free up space at other players, because with running with the ball, it means that they're more likely to be closed down. Players have to kind of move around to cover and basically try and put in a tackle, and it creates space elsewhere on the pitch. In terms of shape, push higher up I have on. I feel like it's quite a good tactic, this one, to really apply some pressure because the men you've got in advanced areas, because of kind of, I guess, the lack of balance you have in midfield. In pushing higher up, it can somewhat eliminate the kind of frailties at the back in terms of the space that can be found from the midfielders getting too high up the pitch, because the defence as a line are more likely to kind of, I guess, become closer with the midfield to a certain extent. Anyway, the last instruction is higher tempo. I want this tactic to revolve around working the ball, fast play, but being direct when need be. So if you're chasing the game, turn on direct passing if you're getting particularly desperate. If you're looking to dominate a game, I'd recommend turning on actually pass into space. And it's quite a nice instruction, for especially with this fluid mentality, getting things to work. So anyway, that's my take on Real Madrid's tactics. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments. I know I'm going to divide some opinions, but hopefully you guys enjoy this tactic. If you download it, let me know how you get on. As I mentioned in my save that I did, where I just let Real Madrid use this tactic for a year, they did fairly solidly in terms of coming second in the league, getting to the Champions League semi-final and winning the Spanish Cup. That was with £120 million left in the transfer budget, so I'm sure with that money you could strengthen the squad, perhaps look to replace a few players in the system, or maybe just add a touch of quality somewhere. So yeah, instructions down below on how to install this tactic. There'll be a link to download it too. If you have enjoyed the video, if you could smash the like button, it really does help me out. I do greatly appreciate it, guys. And other than that, subscribe if you're new to my channel for more Football Manager 2015 videos, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.